rumors here. For those of you who are familiar with the hybrid language, we call it rumors and Zoomers. So good morning, rumors, and good morning, Zoomers. Thank you so much for joining me here. This presentation is on grant application, the techniques using past applications, partner letters, and AI. The presenters are Adele McLean and myself. Adele has been held up at the hospital today with a gallbladder surgery. So I'm here alone, but I am very lucky to have my buddy and also a consultant from CDE. She'll be presenting on Wednesday and I'll be buddying for her. And here she is today, buddying for me. And if there's anybody else who can help, I would take any help. And then Kira, my friend from San Jose, will be passing the mics if you have any questions. So with that, I'm going to start today's presentation. And yes, please, thank you. And I'm told that as a hybrid presenter, I have to have the mic, otherwise our Zoomers cannot hear what we say here. So I'm going to have to stand here. Usually I like to walk around, but it's okay to stand for the good of all. So for a little, it's not going to the next slide. Clicker is on, but it's on my page, but not there. I don't know how to do this now. It's not good. Is it sliding on the Zoom? It's still what we see there. Over there, but not here. So maybe I need to do some change here. So I don't know how to do this. I think I might have to call tech support. Yeah. Settings. To screen. Display setting is what we're looking for.
Screen sharing.
Screen share. Where's display? Do it like that. We need to apply it. Oh, come on. That worked. Where is it? It's right there, but I can't. Open this one. Not yet. Zoomers, we're going to stop sharing just a minute, doing some technical troubleshooting. Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. but we stopped sharing on Zoom, so we have to share it on Zoom again. Where's the Zoom page? Okay, no, not this page. That's Zoom webinar. No, I think it should be on. Sign in. I don't have that. End webinar for all now. Cancel, but I can't get to that. Mm. There. Keep changes. No. Okay. I think it's working now. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you for your patience. So Adele, my friend, is not here today, and we're both from California, and we are sharing a little bit of what we learned in the last few years applying for different grants. And if you're here in this room, you are already interested in it. So without further ado, we'll just move on. Not advancing. Somebody was supposed to come to help us, right? Okay, yeah, moving on. All right. So I think I figured it out. So the goal to understand essential grant components, learn to use the past applications, partners, and support letters effectively, and to discover how AI can enhance our grant writing. So just a quick warm up for those of you who are here, please be prepared to share with an elbow partner and be prepared to share with others. The Zoomers, please be prepared to share in the chat when I say waterfall to write what you think. What does the word grant application conjure in your mind? So what word comes to mind when you think grant applications? I hear a lot of stress. Thanks. That's the other guy. So it's not showing up on Zoom at all.
Are you logged in as a presenter?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's recording.
I mean,
It's still without the hybrid.
maybe log out and relog back in.
We'll lose a lot of time. I'll just go ahead and do this.
Well, I'll let Stephen with Collab know what's going on too, and maybe they'll know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, friends, I heard there's a lot of stress, a lot of work. However, we also have to consider that it comes with lots of money. And that means a lot more we can do for our friends and our students and our communities. And that's why we're all in here for it. So a grant is a conditional gift of funds with strings attached. We all know that. That's why a lot of work, because there is accountability with it, right? Grants are a way to bring in partners as well, because when you have better partners, you also do a lot more with your funding. And so this is to assist each other, to help each other, but for common goals. So another quick check-in. How many of you here have already applied for grants? Show with your fingers. 5, 1, 2, 10. So it looks like there are people who are much better than I am to share this. So when we come to a place like this, it's not about what I know. It's about, we all know. We all share what we have been doing. And I may be here just to learn more from you. Who knows? I'm just being a facilitator. So moving forward, understanding the grant landscape. We have federal funds, we have state funds, we have private funds, and different funds bring different accountability and practices that we have to, different practices, as well as things that we can give to our community. On my presentation, I will upload everything on the Whuva later. There is a list of different, all those lines that you see with the blue, they are all hot links with links of different applications and different grant funding sources that you could go to. Okay, we're getting help here for our hybrid rumors as well. So I'm sorry, we are a little bit haphazard here. But basically, how about we use this little time that our tech friend is helping with to just share a few thoughts on the most difficult, the most challenging funding or grants that you have got compared to the easier ones. Just take a moment with your partners and or with somebody behind you. What did you learn from the difficult ones, and did you learn from the easier ones? What did you learn from the ones that you received the grant, and what did you learn from the ones you did not receive the grant? Just take a minute. So this morning I did at 7 o'clock meeting with my buddy.
I just shared it.
I am just doing straight from here. Yes, yes, she's doing that. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's bring it back together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody's in. Thank you. So yes, we have all kinds of funding sources, and you have shared with your partners some good experiences, some difficult experiences. We also have alternative funding list, and this list has a lot of them. Feel free to explore them when you get them, because there's no point in me showing them right now. But I just want to share with you, just this last year, the white ones at the bottom are the 3 ones that I experienced writing the grant, receiving one, writing the grant, working hard, not receiving one, and then receiving one and implementing. So the Employment Development Department is in California. So I applied for it, or my school applied for it. We got $2.3 million. And we are now implementing IET at our school. So when we get grants, like you said, there's a lot of work involved, but we do it for a purpose, so it's okay. We go on with it. And that's the experience that I learned from that is what I'm going to share here today. Integrated Education Training, that's a separate grant from the California California Adult Education Program. And that too, even if the funds are smaller, we still get to, the top one is big amount of money. The second one, the integrated education, is smaller, about $140,000. Still, we get to serve another group of population we never thought of being able to serve. And finally, the last one, High Road Training Alliance. I have a partner here in this room too, with whom we applied, and it was a lot of work. We had about 20 partner letters, support letters. Despite that, we still didn't get it. So here's what I'm trying to say is there are times we're going to do a lot of work for it, we will get it, and then when we don't get it, we learn from it. So that's what we will be sharing more today. So the funding that we got from the previous grant, the EDD grant that I mentioned, we were able to provide accessibility for a lot more students, all English language learners. We were able to provide childcare, pay for their fees, uniform, everything. Imagine getting a nursing class, CNA, pharmacy tech, or medical class for free. But the reward that we get, that the state also gets by getting all those people in jobs, is rewarding enough. The quality of programs, when we get grants, we're able to provide higher quality of programs. Of course, not just because we have the funds, but also we have to prove that we can get the return on the investment, right? Innovation and training. Because we get a bigger grant, we are now able to put 3 teachers together in a class, give them extra time. You know, those of you who have done IET, you know how difficult it is to get teachers to collaborate without paying them well enough. Like, we ask them to do lots of things, but if we don't pay them for the time they're giving, there's no quality product. So with better grant, with better funding, we can do all of that. Support services, like I already mentioned, retention and completion rate increases because, of course, we are now able to give all the support they need. Workforce development, a good partnership with the workforce development as well, and our post-secondary options increases. Now, the important part that we tend to forget when we have all these partnerships, with a bigger grant, we also need more partnerships. And building partnerships takes time. But when you have a grant for 3 years, you have to use up all of $2.3 million in 3 years. Getting partners is the key, but it's also very difficult. So before we even apply for the grant, the focus for all of us, or some thoughts that we should consider, is will our goals align with their goals? So aligning the mission is an important part for the funders to yours, as well as yours to your partners, right? So you have to know your why. Development of new programs. Yes, we want to develop new programs, but sustaining the current programs, moving on to newer ones. Fundraising. So for example, in my case, when we started the CNA and when we applied for the grant, we said we already started the CNA, We had gone through the first cohort. Now we want to have a second cohort and a third cohort and grow our program. So if you already have the basis, the foundation is already built, you're asking them for more funds just to increase or enhance, that's better than starting something from scratch. So that's where I'm going with this. Don't think of something from scratch yet. Build something and add to that is easier and faster. Fundraising is by having all these partners coming with you. For example, just to start the CNA program that we had, we needed to have a skilled nursing facility. We don't have the funds, even if we got $2.3 million to start building a skills facility takes effort and time. So it's better to partner with a local SNF. So we were fortunate to have 2 SNF in our local area who were willing to partner with us, so it went faster. Know what type of proposal you have. You bring the program, you do your research beforehand, you train your staff who are going out to go and talk to those people. In my case, when we started the CNA program, our transition specialist was the one who went out. Now with the $2 million grant we got, we started the medical assistant program. Now within the medical assistant program, we have another transition specialist who was able to go and get another 20. Right now, and we are on the 23rd MOU that we're signing with our local hospitals and clinics. You don't have to go only with the big organizations. You can also go with the smaller ones. With the medical assistant program, we are required to have every student get externships, right? And for those externships, you don't have to go all to a big hospital. So we signed up with small clinics as well. So, but then you have to train the people to do this, to have the same vision and to be able to go and talk to people, right? Planning, of course, technical assistance. Now, because the grant that we got is from Employment Development Department, we were also required to have all kinds of data put in CalJobs, including intake, update, all the tests that they take, everything that they're doing, how many hours of instruction, everything has to be documented. And for that, you need technical assistance. So if you're applying for a grant, you'll also have to know what are the deliverables ahead of time. And if that's something you cannot meet, then it's going to be a better option not to go for it. So also capital improvements, all kinds of buildings. So with the grant that we got, we were able to, because it's only 3 years grant, we also have to be very particular in finding the people who are going to work there, as long as well as investments in the building or overhead investment. So what we did is instead of buying a place, we just leased the property for the period of the grant. Instead of having full-time employees, we are bringing part-time employees or employees under a grant. So when the fund goes off, then we are not stuck with that employee. So grant gives us the opportunities to address the needs identified by both you and the funder. I'm saying all this because if you're going to apply for a grant, we got to consider all of that beforehand. So I will share later a few other pitfalls we had because we did not consider things while we applied. So there are also a lot of requirements by the funders. So you have to consider, again, I said this before, can your organization fulfill the requirements of the grant? What additional resources, partners, or consultants will you need? What are the criteria for the grant? Does your writing team understand the criteria and how to meet them? So I met somebody for breakfast this morning, and I think he's right there at the back. Of course, he said, well, we didn't apply for that because we knew that we don't have the means to meet the needs. So a lot of you already know that. You're looking through things and saying, oh, this is something we can meet. We'll apply for it. This is something we cannot. Time is too short. There's not enough time for us to apply for it. So the anatomy of a strong proposal. Let's get into what usually a grant proposal requests. they would ask for a needs assessment. They would ask for your goals and objectives. SMART goals is what we think about. And by SMART, that means you have to think about whether it is, you have to specific, what are the specifics, by when you're going to get it done, how you're going to measure it, SMAR, realistic and time-bound. Program design. You have to consider your program design. If it's an IET, for in my case, we proposed for an IET, and that IET did not have to be healthcare per se, but we know that in our area, healthcare is a huge need, so we chose healthcare. We didn't have any ESL teachers who were willing to be an ESL support, but somehow we had to build that over time, right? And then you have to think about your budget and the justification for every line item on the budget and evaluation plan. The proposal outline usually, so they would be asking you for a proposal summary. Usually when I write a grant, I keep that till the end. I do have a big vision, big, what we want to do, but the specific writing, we keep that till the end. But organization description and history, usually that's pretty easy for schools like us. We all do our WASC or federal program monitoring from often, so we have that written already. The problem statement and statement of needs are the ones where you put a lot more effort because you're doing your research there. The program, project description, and narrative, that's where your true body is, the true meat of your activity and what your proposal is. The outcomes and evaluations, that too, we have to do our research to say, okay, if you're going to give us this much money, we're going to be providing this, this, and this, right? The budget with justification, because every line item in the budget, you also have to justify why you're asking that. Others has required for specific grants. Some grants will say, depending on who the grantors are or the funders are, they have specific things they want you to cover. For instance, the High Road Training Alliance one that we applied for, in that they ask questions like, how are you going to provide enough workers, the workforce, because it's a, of course, the grant is being funded so that they can have more employers, right? And not employers, I meant employees, more workforce. Partners, sustainability, and compliance. Those are some things also that they would ask. So in the structure of the proposal, these are also the different titles of the different paperwork that you have to complete. And depending on how big the grant is, some of them will ask every one of these. It was similar to the previous page, so I'm just going to move on. So I had never written a grant before, 5 years ago, right? The first time I wrote a grant, all I did was read past grants, right? Past application. So when I came in as an administrator, I'm thinking these are the things that we have to do for WIOA Title II. We all have to do the RFAs every 4 years. It used to be every 3 years. And now it's in California, at least it's 4 years now. So for someone who's never written a grant, where do we start? For me, the past grants that were written were very, very helpful, just reading those. So save time, reuse the core content from the past. You don't need to rewrite something like your description of your school and the geographic area. It's already there. What happened 4 years is still there, right? Maybe there's a slight change in the population, in the demographics, in the numbers. Work with your network. This is something that we did in my area. So earlier in my introduction, and if Adele were here, she would be saying the same. Both of us are very heavy on being part and active in organizations, such as California Council of Adult Educators, that is CCAE. We are also both members as well as officers at the AXA Adult Education Council. We're also members of the California Council of California Adult Educated, no, Association of California School Administrators, right? California Adult Education Administrators. So what we do is we work together. We work together by forming networks. So every other month we have a networking meeting. So at the networking meeting, we bring all of us together, and this whole presentation is born out of that. So when Region 12 and Region 19 had our meetings, we said, oh, the RFA is out. We're all struggling to write the RFA, so let's get together and do a workshop. So some 7, 10 of us got into a room. We told everybody to bring your draft, whatever draft you had, you know, wherever you are, it doesn't matter, bring your draft. And we got ourselves in groups of 3 or 4 and read each other's applications, just like a reader of the application would. And then share information, the good things that we're learning from one, we're sharing with others, so that our region brings more money in. It's like, okay, some people would be like, oh, okay, if I get it, I should work it only for myself. We were not in that sense. Our mindset was, let's all work together so that we can bring more money for our region, right? So that's one. And that's how we created a grant library. So this link is a hot link. So if you open that, you will see all of the schools in our region who put our grants in when we all applied in 2023, I think 22 or 23. So we all have each other's there. We're sharing each other's and also learning from each other. And then when one did not get it, we also worked to help that one to get to ask the funders why so-and-so did not get it. So learning from that process of when they say, oh, you didn't get it because we didn't have any employer partners, or you didn't get it because you didn't have enough data in this section, or you didn't get it because your narrative did not include this, this, and this that was required. So just by being a collaborative group, we learn from each other as well. So that's what we did. Well, and then of course we reviewed the winning proposals, the ones who won, because that's whom we learn from. I learned from the feedback and funded or not funded. So that's what we talked about when we talk about past applications and being strategic and collaborative. We also said that in our abstract that we will be sharing how we look at data, because data speaks louder than words when you're trying to convince people. So the data can be both qualitative and quantitative, but for some people like us who get data from NRS on a regular basis, it's important to use our CASAS data, right? To show that we have done this before and we can do better if you give us more money. So here is an example of using data. I already said data speaks louder. Use evidence, what you have done before. I see my spelling is incorrect there, but ignore that. Last 3 or 4 years data. So when we do data, it's critical that we don't look at only 1 year, because you want to show trends, right? So you want to also show that you have evidence of growth in the past and you can still deliver now as well. So trend lines, use trend lines to convince, and the probability of meeting more goals in the future. So by taking your NRS data, making it work for you. So for example, in this data sheet that I have, this is just a clip from NRS data for my school. We showed that our employee, getting students employed, this is the quarterly exit data, right? So two quarters after exit and 4 quarters after exit, you call your past students and ask if they have got employed. So this is a good way to show that in 2022, we had only 32% of people getting employed. By 23-24, we moved up to 44.3%. That shows, and this is what I'll write in the narrative, that we've been steadily increasing in our employment rate as well. So from so number to so number in this year. So this is where mining the data we have to ask for more money helps. Another use of data here, we are trying to tell them that we are a school that constantly increases our educational functioning level of our students. So where do we get the data? From the NRS data portal. And that speaks louder than data that I can just bring up from my school anecdotal data. But this data, number data, would be complemented or supplemented with my anecdotal data. So using data is also critical. All right, now getting to the partner roles. Earlier, I mentioned that having critical partners is very important. But over time, I have learned that if you do not have proper agreements with your partners from the very beginning, it could become a problem later. And you will not be able to show the deliverables that you expected to deliver if you don't have clear roles and responsibilities. So most grant writing ask for partnership letters and partnership supports. In the beginning, when I first started writing grants, we used to just get a very generic partner letters. That's helpful, but it could also be a problem once you start practicing, because my very first grant, I got letters from the Workforce Development Board. But when I started practicing, they were just in name. They did nothing for us, right? So in the second grant, I made sure that we say very clearly, this is what we're going to offer. This is what you're going to offer. We're going to get paid for this. You're going to not get paid for this or get paid for this, because also paid partnership, equally paid partnership really helps. Then you know both of you are in the boat together. Otherwise, what happens is you get the support letter without agreement on what their deliverables are. It becomes, and you cannot really work long like that, right? So those are very important. Here in this hot link provides support letter template. There is one example, a couple of examples in there as well. Ensure letters align with your narrative too, because the funders are going to look at your narrative as well as the letters that are being provided. So for the first grant that I applied for, we had 10 partner letters. But truly, when we started implementing, they were only partners on the site. So later, when I had to put in for my assessment evaluation reports, they were just silent partners. It was difficult for me to say how they helped. But of course, there are in-kind. So there's something else to remember, is that those are in-kind support as well, right? In your evaluation, we get to write that, okay, they were not partners that provided funding or helped with financial needs, but they helped with in-kind help. But there were some who were just letters. That's one thing. So I want to share a little bit about some of the pitfalls. As I said, they were not true partners, so it was difficult. So that's why it's good not to have any vague objectives, but clear objectives, and on the line items in the budget. Another big pitfall I had learned over time is that when I do the budgeting, I do the bigger picture budgeting very well, but then you forget all those little items that you end up spending on later. And some grants are very strict. You cannot change anything. They will not fund you for anything that you did not mention before. If we are lucky, some grants will have an overview picture, and then they have the detail separately. The detail could be done, but as long as the big picture is fine, you can adjust But in some grants, you can adjust. You have to have it in writing before you can even spend it. So right now, I have a lot of money sitting, but I can't use them for other things other than what I said. So the budget amendment happens over and over, but then that takes time. While that's waiting to be approved, you have things to do. So you end up spending from other pockets where you did not think you would. For those of us who are lucky to have leverage funds, but some of you probably this is the only grant that's going to work for you. You don't have other leverage funds. So those are some considerations to think about. Generic support letters, like I said, is fine, but try to be more specific. Some pro tips. Follow instructions on the grant application form. Whatever is being said, align every section, get letters early, use the checklist. So if you don't have your letters early, last minute you'll be scrambling. I have had some bad experience with, I'm told that I did not upload. I thought I uploaded it, but maybe I was waiting till the last minute, so we lost out on some things, right? So don't wait till the last minute. So backwards map your whole grant writing. Know the due date from the very beginning. This is what I learned. This is my true learning from having applied for 5 grants in the last few years. And then set a timeline, backward map, by when you want to finish. But don't put your deadline as a deadline that the grant funders are saying. Give yourself a week ahead. So set the deadline for your writing 1 week ahead of the due date, and then backwards map by when you want to have everything done. Look at the evaluation score rubric. The rubric is your best friend. Start with it. And in the rubric, don't even look at satisfactory and good. Just look at excellent. The column that says excellent, whatever they're saying excellent, that's what you have to shoot for. If you shoot for excellence, you will at least get to the good column, right? So don't even look at the rest of them. Go for the excellent column and fit your responses to meet the excellence. Find out, yeah, that's what I said. Get your partner letter weeks ahead of the due date. I already said that I missed one due because of waiting for last minute to get the partner letter. Have your proposal ready 1 week ahead of deadline and plan your budget with everything you can think of. Sometimes going higher is better, but then there is also another page here that will come about myth busters here. So, but that's some pro tips. And what helped us? Read the application twice if possible. The moment you get the application, annotate it. Form a writing team. Divide and conquer. Don't write it all alone. It's a lot for one person to write. Don't miss the details. What is being asked? Read what is being asked and then reread. Beware of word counts, details or not too much detail. So usually they have word count. AI is going to be a good tool for all of us. There is a few AI tools that we put here. In fact, I have to admit, this whole presentation for me was by using AI. I put the whole presentation. So whatever I did today, you could have done with AI without coming to the session. Beware of word counts. Consider the solutions to the big problem the funders want. Add data, past, and projections. So this is a summary of what I've already said. So I'm just going to move on. So actually, I have to give credit to Adele and Dana Carter, who actually put this original presentation together, but I changed quite a few when I learned that I'm going to be presenting alone and she won't be here. Funders are always clear about what they want to fund. True or false? What do you think? Those of you who say false, why? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Oh, the Kira had the mic. Yeah. Those of you who said yes. It's true. Anybody? I think it's somewhere in between, right? Some depends on who the funders are. The ones who have done it for a while, they've figured it out. Say they know exactly what they want. But then new funding that comes and they're trying to start something new, they have great ideas, but they haven't figured out what they truly want from you. So it's somewhere in between. When applying, it is best to conceal weaknesses. True or false? Any thoughts? Any brave soul want to say what you think about? There, go ahead. Kira, next to you.
I was just gonna say that if you try to conceal your weaknesses, they're gonna see them no matter what. So I would just be loud and proud about it. Like, hey, we messed this up, but this is how we fixed it, and moving forward, the new process or whatever that's been implemented.
Thank you. Kira, on this side.
I would say a slightly different take. It is not about concealing your weakness, but really highlighting the strengths that you bring that are related to what they're asking for. And I think, yeah, I think if it's a weakness that impacts your ability to deliver, then that will come across. But I think it's what are the strengths that you bring to the table that relate to what it is that they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, very true. Both of you, you've got a point, but at the same time, we have to remember, just like a job interview, we try to go and show our best self, right? Because we are selling something to them. So yes, we have weaknesses, but if they're not asking for your weakness, you play on your strength. And we all know how positivity works. Are there any questions or responses from the Zoomers on this question? Not yet. Okay, so okay. When applying, is it best to conceal?
I'll just add to that too, to a degree. If the application asks, what are your weaknesses? Of course, you're going to have to answer that question and be very creative and constructive on how honestly you answer that. But I agree with Toynbee, do not expose your weaknesses if they do not ask. I never, when I write grants ever, they want to see how strong you are, but if they ask, then you can do that. That's from writing grants for 20 years, so I never do that.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Serda. He's actually one of my grant writers. I learned a lot from him too. Anybody else want to share anything? I wanted us to be a little bit more interactive than just me talking up here. Earlier, all of you had a lot of thoughts and ideas. There were people who had written many more grants than I have. Nothing else? There. Thank you.
I'm sorry, the change of weather has me. I'm from Illinois, where it's very cold today. Sorry. I wanted to say, when you asked us the question in the opening about whether or not, what's the first thing that comes to our mind when we think about grants? I think one of the things I think about is it worth it? Because there are so many grant opportunities, and sometimes the return on investment or what they're asking is ridiculous, or what they're expecting is even more ridiculous. So sometimes I think one of the key things to ask, is this grant necessary? Because you don't want to be just chasing funds and having to make all these changes. And then another thing I think about quickly when I'm thinking about a grant and starting to write it, if we decide to, I typically think about sustainability, like what happens when this grant goes away? Because if it's a 1 year, 2 year, you've just got to be a different kind of thinker about a 1 year, 2 year grant. So it's based on as short of the time is how much a commitment we put in. So always think about, is the grant worth it? And then for the commitment that they're asking or what they're asking for, are you going to be able to sustain that when the grant is gone?
Thank you so much for sharing that. This is also one of my learning, is having been a newer administrator 8 years ago, I wanted to go for everything that comes up, right? But then a time comes when you have to really start considering, truly, is this another thing that we need? Or is this something that we can pass? But at the same time, there is something about asking the funders, people who are experienced, to come up and say, does it include this? Does it include that? And how about this? And how about that? because having sat through some of those pre-grant webinars and hearing other people asking questions like, will this grant fund stipends for students, for adult students? Are students going to school? That means they are losing out on other opportunities to earn money for their family. Of course, there will be a long-term opportunity for them, but in the short term, they're going to have to give up something. Can we fund at least a little bit of stipend while they are working with us or they are educating themselves, right? Those are questions that were asked for some other grant applicants, which helped me to also think, oh, okay, that's something that I had never considered. So one of those line items are those things. Or childcare, for instance. You felt like, okay, in my case, for instance, right now, I didn't think that I should be asking for a line item on security for the campus. Because when we applied and we leased a property, there's no space on the big main campus. So the leased property needs security. It also needs custodian staff. So I had not considered that. Those are things that we have to consider as we're applying, you know. Do we need somebody to take care of that space? Is there going to be childcare? Funders do not read grant reports. Is that true? False, right? I'm sure they're reading it, but something that we have to think is they themselves are not reading. They have a group of people, they employ consultants or whatever to read those grants for them. So then that brings us to the point, things that we think they should know, they don't know. So as writers, we have to be very clear and not use all kinds of acronyms that we are aware of, or the funder may be aware of, maybe not the reader. We have to consider who's going to read it. So keeping in mind that we have explained it before, but we need to explain it again, because when I have been readers and evaluators at some point in time, and I remember sometimes they divide and conquer. So one reader will read just a certain section when you have 8 or 10 sections in the grant, right? So we have to consider reader's point of view and say, oh, I have explained it in paragraph 1, but the person who's reading paragraph 10 has not read what that first person read. So we have to consider things like that. The last point here is always embellish and stretch, especially in the budget. What do you think? True or false? False, right? Why would you like to? No, not really false. I would say be realistic, right? Be true. Embellish, yes, we are trying to sell ourselves, but not truly embellish. We have to convince with what we have for sure, right? Because a time will come when you have to expose everything. They're going to come visit you and see how your fund is the fund is being used, whether you have what you truly said you have, right? Also, forget about them. We have to think about ourselves. Can we truly do what we said we will do? So that SMART goal, realistic, all those things that critical. Pardon the 111. I did not create the slide like that, but when it converted from Canva to PowerPoint, it changed itself. All right, so how many of you used AI to write your grants? I see quite a few hands already. And without AI, we can't do anything anymore, I feel like. We've come to a point. A few years ago, 3 years ago, the head of the Chamber of Commerce came and told me, Toibi, you've been getting a lot of grants, and I know nothing about grants. I have a grant that I want to apply, and I want your help. I said, okay, whenever you're ready, let me know. 2 months went by, he never came to talk to me. But a day before the grant was due, the application was due, he came and told me, I need your help, it's due tomorrow. And I'm like, tomorrow? Oh, okay. And then he says, your superintendent uses AI for everything. Can you use AI and write it for us? And I'm like, okay, I'll try. So that's when I first started using AI to write grant. In one evening, took me some 2 hours to put the right prompts in. And the first output wasn't good enough. You add some more prompts. And also I searched some more about the Chamber of Commerce in my city, put their website in, asked it to look at their detail, and then do it again. By the third iteration, the grant was pretty good, very well written. However, that was not enough. The next morning, I took it to him. I said, we've got to read this together as a team. Bring your 3 top people. The 4 of us sat together, read through the whole thing, and corroborated or corrected some of the AI numbers and all that was given in it. And we put in the grant the next day. And you know what? They got $80,000. I was shocked because I'm like, overnight we wrote it and they got it. That kind of gave me the thing that, oh, okay, AI worked. So after that, the next writing session, AI grant writing we had to do, we started using AI a bit, not too much, because I don't want them to see that, oh, this is all churned out from some AI output. Yes, please. Yeah, ChatGPT, but the paid version, because the free version will not give you enough, and the paid version is so good that it'll also even create your budget for you, but you have to give the right prompt. And don't take the first output as is. Keep asking for more and feeding it more. In fact, I wrote 3 articles a few weeks ago for a magazine, and all I did is I put a few of my old presentations, uploaded the presentations, and asked it to convert it into an article. And AI works pretty well. Yes, somebody else had something to share about using AI to create a grant proposal?
I just think I'm glad you put that, still needs human oversight. Absolutely. You are the storyteller. You know your school more than AI knows. You know your students. You need to feed that information in and make sure it stands out. It's not generic, because AI is going to be very generic. It's going to pull from all kinds of stuff too that might not even be things you're doing. So you got to be very careful to read everything that AI does, and not just cut and paste, because you might be committing to something that you didn't really do. Or if you do your budget in AI as well, which I do budgets in AI as well, it's also the numbers don't always add up correctly. I've noticed that. So it'll spit you out a spreadsheet, do a budget for blah, 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 this much amount. It'll do it. And then if you need to check it, I've noticed sometimes AI makes mistakes and the numbers don't add up. So oversight's important. Also, I'm going to say this as well, because I went into certified grant writing, professional writing. I went to school to get a certification for it, like many of you got certified in your professions. There are professionals like myself that still hope that people see us as a tool to still assist you, because the packaging is also really important, how you package your grant, the way it's packaged, federal grants especially, right? Federal grants are so different in the way it's packaged, and you got to be very meticulous on your attachments and the things that are allowed versus the things that aren't allowed. And again, AI is not going to help you with that. You have to still understand the FOA, this is called the FOA for federal grants, enough. So it does help speed up things completely, but it's still not ever going to replace you as the expert.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Just bringing the mic over.
No, I agree. We've hired consultants to help with writing grants, and I knew right away it was from AI. It was just so generic and just over the top on the greatness of the organization. And I just remember reading it that, well, we could do this ourselves. Why am I paying you this? If you don't have a good writer who's going to go through and refine it. And it takes too long to get to what the funder is asking for. If you pull that first version of it and not keep refining it. You're spending all of this time with this junk of how great and this and that, but nothing really solid. The other thing that I will say is the more you use it, the more it gets your voice and the more you build in sort of what the organization is and the language that you use normally then you start to get to the true voice of it. And we're working on our own little assistant and really encouraging staff to continuously, it's a paid version, feeding it so that it starts to learn who we are as a school and the tone and language that we use for it. But yeah, I can spot if we hire a consultant that they plugged it into AI and it's kind of worthless.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. There's one more on the corner there.
I use the GPT, but the free version. But I have never used for budget. I just use, we do the other side. We first have the idea what we want to offer, because I have seen that when I want sometimes to express something, I put it in the chat GPT and change completely the main idea that I want to sell. So that's why I do it several times until it captures what I really want to say. But of course, the GPT does in a very good way. I repeat a lot of, I am not a very good with words, but with ideas, I am very good. So I am the ones who create the idea, and it helped me a lot because I don't know how to express it. And then we use people all the time that they did not write the grant to read the grant. So we are the ones who define how we are going to do it, and with GPT in my case, but somebody else read it as a proofreader if it's understandable for somebody that is external to the process. Is how we use very empiric or very primitive GPT use.
Thank you. Thank you. That's another good way to look at it. You write yours and then ask it to make it better and fit the word limit. That's a better use. And for me, I use both ways, but what I have done is when I'm stuck with something, I ask AI to give me, that kind of generates more ideas for me, then I add more. So I've used both ways. Moving forward, we have a quick breakout time, but I don't think we need it. We've kind of did that right now. So basically, my question was, has this information presented changed your thinking regarding your approach to grants and alternative funding opportunities, or how can I use new techniques like AI to assist in the process of grant writing? So we've discussed a little bit here. Play with it, and sometimes you can upload the entire, for the Chamber of Commerce one that I just talked about, I uploaded the whole RFA, all the questions, and then I asked it to respond. So that way works sometimes. Sometimes you just focus on one question that you're stuck with, ask it to give you ideas, and then that gave me, so in one of the grant writing that I did, they asked questions how it's going to help with energy conservation and all that. So I was stuck with it. I asked ChatGPT, and then it gave me an idea that sparked more ideas for me. So I have some resources that we have some resources, not I. Adele is not here today. That's why I keep saying I, but Adele and I were supposed to give this together. We have some templates and tools. If you click the link, this whole presentation will be uploaded on the Whova. Some prompts, examples, and budget samples are also there. The budget sample here you would see is from AI, but that's why it's very generic. But then if you have at least something, you can add more. Or in our contributors' case, you use your own past budget, put it in, and ask questions to polish it up for you. With that, I think I've got 5 minutes more. So anybody here wants to share some things that I haven't shared, but will be helpful for the good of the group?
Just a quick question, because when you do So on the paid version, you can create a project. And that's where I find that you can upload a lot of the source documents that you want to use. Is that how you approached it? Because there's, yeah, if you create a project, then you can put in tons and tons of things.
You mean with
Is it-
AI?
Yeah,
Yes,
with
yes.
AI, when you're
yeah.
doing the grant, is that where you're doing it on the
Yes,
project piece of
yes,
it?
yes.
And not just a general?
Not the just general, the source,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And then when I work, for me, let me tell you something I haven't said yet. Of the 4 or 5 that I have written, the one that came out the best was where I put a group of 4 of us together and we divided and conquered. So even if AI is very good to help you when you're stuck, true human minds sitting together, reading the questions thoroughly, highlighting what is being asked. This is what I did. This exercise was the best. 4 of us told ourselves we're going to write this grant, and we closed ourselves in an office room for at least 3 or 4 days of the week. We took certain sections and wrote it, and then we changed around a little bit, and then the second person reads what I wrote, and then swapped a bit, and then make sure that we have answered all the questions, everything that they've asked. And that particular grant just went so well. We were shocked by how much we got, or what we got. It's because it's human minds putting together, answering the questions directly, and then we just use a lot of research, and Google Drive was our friend, put everything in shared drive. You're reading and rereading, and you're just first iteration, second iteration, third iteration, and then the final product. So it just shocked us. And then another pitfall I had, and I learned from that, is my district said, oh, we have a grant writer. Why don't you use the grant writer? I did. But you know what? I didn't get that grant, right? So you learn from mistakes. With that, I say thank you very much for joining my session today. Adele and I thank you. Our emails are here. Feel free to write to us if you have any questions. Thank you, Zoomers, as well. I'm sorry I didn't interact too much with you guys.